Shanks' evil twin is finally here, and this man just made one of the most insane entrances in all of One Piece, seriously. Oda woke up and decided to cook at maximum level in this chapter. Because Elbaf is officially out of control now, we got a Vegapunk clone, a giant Ohara library Loki, talking to a mysterious person. And at the end, a dark Shanks showing up through a demonic summoning circle, just like the Gorosei in Egghead Oda basically said, "You want mysteries? Fine, take all of them." So continuing right where everything left off, Luffy walks up to Saul. But instead of acting like his normal self, this man suddenly hits a super formal Yakuza-style pose, thanking Saul for taking care of Robin. And the Straw Hats completely lose their minds. Everyone is staring at him like, what was that supposed to be? Usopp instantly starts panicking, trying to figure out who taught Luffy that pose, but Luffy casually says nobody taught him anything. The man literally transformed into an old Japanese mafia boss for 5 seconds, and then went back to normal. Robin then properly introduces Luffy as her captain, but of course Saul already knows exactly who he is. It's not every day that a Yonko shows up wearing sandals in front of you. But what truly hits Saul emotionally is not Luffy's fame or bounty. It's the fact that Robin finally found real friends exactly like he promised her she would, all those years ago. And then Saul looks at the Straw Hats and drops the line that completely destroys everyone emotionally. These are the people who would protect someone like her. And instantly, the crew starts crying like children lost in a supermarket. Nami, Usopp, Sanji, Chopper, everybody completely breaks down. Meanwhile, Luffy, Zoro, and Jinbei are standing. They're dry as rocks, wondering why everyone is acting so dramatic. Saul, then, sincerely thanks the crew for taking care of his precious little niece, and right after that, Lilith steps forward introducing herself as Dr. Vegapunk. Except Saul looks completely confused, because the Vegapunk he knew definitely was not a floating woman looking like an MMORPG character. And things get even weirder when Jinbei brings out a giant capsule labeled Vega. Lilith reveals that inside the capsule is a perfect clone of the original Stella Vegapunk. Yes, another Vegapunk. This man literally turned himself into a franchise. According to Lilith, this clone was created over 20 years ago because the main body couldn't leave the laboratory without alerting the world government. So Vegapunk preserved this version inside a nutrient fluid like some kind of human DLC in storage. Luffy hears there's another Vegapunk inside a box, and instantly gets traumatized again. Egghead already gave this man enough nightmares. But Lilith explains that she plans to build a new laboratory in Elbaf to revive Vegapunk using this body, and she also promises to find a permanent cure for Kuma. Bonnie immediately lights up hearing this. Meanwhile, Saul gets super emotional thinking his old friend might actually come back. But he still asks the most important question imaginable. Why is Vegapunk a woman now? And honestly, fair question. After that, Anne appears introducing herself as an assistant teacher from the greatest school and library in Elbaf, offering to guide the Straw Hats around the island. Robin, Saul, Chopper, Lilith, and Bonnie head straight toward the library while the rest of the crew explores the academy grounds, and of course, chaos immediately begins. They run into a bunch of giant kids playing around, and Usopp instantly enters legendary warrior mode, asking if they dream about sailing the seas and defeating evil villains. But then a voice responds, saying that kind of thing is outdated and old-fashioned now. Zoro immediately notices that voice belongs to an adult. And then they realize Luffy and Usopp were literally standing on top of a giant woman lying on the ground. Yes, Luffy was bouncing on her chest like he was testing mattresses in a furniture store. And somehow the funniest part is that she doesn't care at all. This giant woman is Ripley, a biology teacher from Seahorse Academy, and she says they're so light she barely even felt them. Oda casually threw this scene into the chapter and moved on like nothing happened. Ripley then lifts Luffy and Usopp into her hand and welcomes the Straw Hats to Elbaf, while Anne desperately tries to make the giant children show proper respect to an emperor of the sea. Except the children remind her that modern Elbaf doesn't care as much about war anymore. And then comes one of the most important revelations in the chapter. Ripley explains that King Harold wanted to completely change Elbaf. Instead of living only for war, he wanted trade and alliances with other nations. He wanted to modernize the country, but those ideals created conflict with the older generation of giants. And then comes the huge bombshell. Harold was murdered by his own son, Loki, the cursed prince. And because of that, Elbaf refuses to acknowledge Loki as king even now. The kingdom literally has no ruler because nobody wants him on the throne. And that explains why modern Elbaf feels so different from the savage warrior nation we imagined for years. Now there are schools, libraries, teachers, and actual civilization. Well, sort of, the conversation shifts when Ripley looks at Luffy's wanted poster and comments that he doesn't resemble the white-haired version shown there, his Gear 5 form, and she says she would love to see it in person. Luffy casually responds, "That's me when I'm the most free." And suddenly, Ripley gets visibly emotional because according to her Gear 5, looks exactly like a legendary warrior from ancient Elbaf stories. The kind of mythical figure that inspired the giants of old. And considering everything connected to Nika and freedom, this is almost definitely Oda setting up another massive reveal later on. Meanwhile, Robin finally arrives at the legendary Owl Library alongside Saul, Chopper, Bonnie, and Lilith. Before entering, Saul explains what happened after O'Hara's destruction. He could never stop thinking about the books the scholars sacrificed their lives to protect. So he returned to the ruins with Hadrudin and recovered every single book from the water. And when Saul found them still intact, he completely broke down emotionally. Robin already knew the books were there, ever since Egghead. But hearing it directly while standing in front of the library hits completely differently. Before entering, Saul warns Robin to hold on to her book tightly, and then one of the most magical moments in the chapter happens. The moment they cross the entrance, the book instantly grows to gigantic size. Every single book inside the Owl Library is massive. Towering shelves stretch endlessly across the room. Giant branches cover the space, and resting peacefully among them is a colossal sleeping owl. And there, preserved safely inside Elbaf, are the actual books of O'Hara, every piece of knowledge the world government tried to erase from history. At that moment, Robin remembers Professor Clover asking her if she liked books when she was just a child. And for the first time in years, she realizes O'Hara never truly died. And instead of crying from pain, she finally cries from happiness. But Oda never allows happiness to last for too long, because the story suddenly cuts to the underworld of Elbaf, where Loki is chained up speaking with someone named Mosa through a Dendenmushi, and the conversation between them feels strangely intimate. You can immediately tell they've been talking for years. Loki asks if Mosa is still haunted by the traumatic experience they mentioned before, and when Mosa admits they still tremble just thinking about it, Loki coldly responds that he would have killed every single person responsible for hurting them. And then comes the really interesting part. Mosa says that despite all his harsh words, Loki is actually kind underneath everything. And Loki becomes genuinely angry hearing that. The man gets offended at being called kind, which already tells us there's far more to his character than just evil, cursed prince. And then comes the ending that completely explodes the chapter. While Dory, Brogy, and the giants continue drinking and waiting for the Straw Hats to return for the feast, black lightning crashes down onto the castle. A magical circle suddenly appears in the throne room, exactly like the summoning circles used by the Gorosei in Egghead, and from inside emerge two hooded figures. The first is a man with a face identical to Shanks, the exact same mysterious figure who appeared speaking with the 5 elders during the reverie, and beside him appears a mysterious woman with her mouth covered and one eye hidden behind her hair. The two of them kneel inside the throne room like demons being summoned into the world of One Piece itself. So, now just think about how insane Elbaf has become. We have a Vegapunk clone potentially returning from the dead, Loki making mysterious secret deals underground, a forbidden library containing O'Hara's knowledge, and a possible evil twin brother of Shanks arriving through demonic magic circles. Oda has officially turned Elbaf into a giant ticking time bomb, and the craziest part is that this is only the beginning.